Studios.
Alright, welcome back to part 2 of the Bulma step-by-step. Today we're going to be coloring and adding the highlights. So I'm going to start with the hair this time instead of the skin tone, just because there's overlapping parts. So I'm just going to start with a base tone for her hair. It's almost like a teal color. So I'm going to start with an aqua. And just like the last video, might have to take some breaks. Back's still a little raw. And it's okay if you go a little bit out of the line. Some bleed through is normal. Especially since we're overlapping a lot. Just want to make sure you stay in there. We have some video game lullabies again. I get scared playing video game music just because I don't want to get hit with a copyright strike. So by playing lullabies, they're technically covers. So since I'm using the very first generation of Copic, this one does not have a brush tip. So it kind of works to our advantage because since we're pretty much just filling in the area, you can use the broad tip. I was just using the fine tip to kind of outline the areas so I don't go over. So this one is the end theme. See what end theme for? Mega Man. Mega Man has such iconic music. This is for Mega Man 2. The Wily stage is still the best. You don't really have to worry about the streaks on this because you will be going over with another color. And here might be a little tricky because the strand is a lot thinner. That's the good thing about using the old school Copic. With the fine line, you can really get into that area. Might be a little bit left over. This is gonna be skin here, so just right now it's gonna look really flat. That's why they call this in comic books. They call this doing the flats because you're flattening the image with color. You add the volume with layers of color and putting shadows, highlights. I really improved with color when I started doing digital art. This is something that, if you're really looking to improve upon, I would highly recommend trying digital art. You don't have to get anything super fancy. If you have an iPad, I believe the iPad 8th generation and above, you can use an Apple Pencil, so you don't need an iPad Pro. You can just have a regular iPad and get the Apple Pencil for it. Now her eyes are a little bit darker than her hair, so you can put the base layer down to match her eyes, but then when you go to add shading, I would just shade it a different color. So now the hair is done and the eyes, so now we're going to be working on the skin. And I'm doing a 000, the E000, which is just like a nice base to start at. Because she's very voluptuous, we want to add a lot of layers to her skin. If any of you ever really like to color, doing coloring books, this is probably your favorite part. I really enjoy doing this. To me, doing the color really brings the drawing to life. Speaking of the devil, here's the Dr. Wily stage. Now, like I said in the last video, at part 1, the reason why we had to let it dry overnight is because we used so much black. So now that the black is dry, you can add some volume to it. The one thing I will recommend if you're doing a piece this big is to always have extra skin tone. I have refills for all my skin tones because I use them so much. Almost every anime character uses some sort of skin tone. And since I get requested a lot for anime, it's nice to have extra. And just like the hair, you just want to get the base down, so you will see some streaking in the skin, and that's normal. You have to do multiple pass-throughs, and I can already feel this one starting to fade on me. You can get a little loose once you got the base down, because it does help the marker blend. I'm just going to lift this up just a little bit so we can get some of the skin here. Now, it does look like she has some sort of, I would say spandex, but we're not going to do that. I'm just going to make it skin tone. And if you wanted to add it later, you already have the skin down at that point, so I'm just gonna grab some more skin tone. And if you're in a pinch, you just don't have the time to really refill it if you're working on a piece, what you can do is just grab the refill here and just dab a little on the tip. Because you don't really need a lot at this moment. We just need to finish her legs. Get that out of the light's way there. Just needs a little bit more. And then I'll refill it later once I'm not working on a piece. That didn't sound very lullaby-ish. Alright, so we got the base down for the skin. All these white areas we're going to hit with gray later. And then her bow tie is red. So I'm going to use a coral. It's more of a vibrant version of red, at least personally. I did get out of the lines a little bit, that's okay. Show you a little trick on how to take care of that. If you have the colorless blender, so if you have the 0 colorless blender, you can actually get in there and you can fix those little mistakes. And it's almost like it never happened. We're going to zoom in just a little bit here while I do the skin. Since we don't need the top of the head for the skin, you can see most of it here. And zoom in a little bit more. And here's where you want to get the shape of the breasts. You kind of want to follow the contours, so that way It looks more natural. This is where you don't want to kind of go off in different lines. You want to follow the shape of the body. It's going to look a little odd at first, so I'm going to hit it with a couple different layers. And here I'm just following where the dark of the fingers are going to lie and the hand, and it gives it that volume. Drying out all my markers today. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. This is the same marker I was just using. This is just the bigger version. The chow markers don't hold as much. And you see here, even after overnight drying, the ink is still bleeding a bit. So we got the first layer down. So now you want to go to what I call pink flamingo. And this is just kind of reinstating that shade. And you want to keep this one handy too, because when you go to blend later, this is the color now that you're going to blend those shades with. Alright, now we're just going to let it dry real quick and then we can start the blending. Now we're going to add a little bit of flesh tone. It's just going to really make it pop. And remember what I said about the last marker you use, you want to keep it handy because you don't want these shapes to get blocky. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab 0-1 and smooth it out. Color is one of those things where it'll just come to you one day. Things will just start to click. And the reason why I'm doing this right away is because this flesh color will dry faster. I'm not sure why, if it's just the pigment they use for it, but just adding those little details in there. You can always smooth these out. As you can see here, we smoothed the face out a little bit. You can probably hear the camera. So I like to play music because the camera makes a really loud noise. So the music kind of hides that recorded camera noise. now we're gonna kind of flesh out her bottom. It looks like I dried out my 01, so I'm going to use a different color. The blending's all the same, so alright, so we're just going to let that dry, and then we'll go on to part of the hair, and then kind of flesh out this, and then maybe add a couple grays here. Alright, so now we're going to color. I'm going to get a darker bluish color here, like a teal blue. And we can add the highlights later with the paint marker. And you can even add a couple streaks here. I'm just going to close up just a little bit here so we can catch some of the hair. So I just grab this teal blue here. This is where you can kind of add a little bit of the detail here. Just little strokes. This is where you got to be careful you don't go out, which I did. I'm just going to use a little bit of, it's called Holiday Blue, just to blend it out. And it's just going to make it come out a little bit more. And I'm just going to use a slightly darker green just for these little corners here. Just to add a little contrast. And we'll just get a little bit of this blue here just for the eyes. And then a little bit of a lighter blue. To blend it out. And now we can kind of work on the gray of the body here. I'm going to use a neutral gray. And then a little bit here on the tail. And I'm going to go with the N1. That's what happens when you don't put your markers back. This is the N4 here. And this is where you can kind of hit the texture. And then you go back to the N1 here. And just smooth that out. And because we want to make this a little bit different than the rest of it, I'm going to use a different type of gray. I'm going to use a toner gray, which is this T line here. And what we're going to do now is with this toner gray is we can either hit it with the highlights or you can hit it with an even darker gray to help this flex look to the costume here. So I'm going to use this T9, which is a lot darker, to kind of help fill out these areas that I missed with the original brush. And now we can kind of start putting the highlights in. Everything looks like it's in the right shape here. I'm going to zoom out just a little so we can get the whole picture. There we go. Alright, it looks like it's drying out a little bit, so I gotta shake it. There we go. And all these areas that were open, that's where you can hit the reflective. Here I'm just going to tilt it just a little bit. And then the bow tie is going with a little bit of a darker red here. And then going back with the coral, you can blend it out so it looks a lot more natural. And just wait for that to dry so you can put some accents there, and then here on the ears. And then a little bit on the hair. Not a lot, just a little bit. Alright, she's all done. I forgot a little part here, just a little. And hopefully you enjoyed this Bulma sketch that I did here, and you guys can pick up some extra tips and tricks. I'm just going to sign it right now. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, don't forget to keep it over 9,000. Love you guys. Bye.
Get ready for the next battle.
It's her discipline.